The distress beacon had been broadcasting for 11 years before anyone answered. Darian Voss had stopped expecting a response sometime around year 7, when he'd buried the last of his original crew beneath the red clay of a world that wasn't Earth and never would be. He kept the beacon running anyway, not out of hope, exactly, but out of habit. A man needed rituals to stay sane on a planet that wanted him dead in 40 different ways before breakfast. So when the relay chimed for the first time in over a decade, Darian nearly dropped the ration bar he'd been gnawing on. Identify, he croaked into the calm, voice rusty from disuse. Static. Then a voice, young, clipped, careful in the way of someone speaking a foreign language with precision rather than fluency. This signal matches registry pattern coalition friendly. We are responding under mutual aid protocol. Darian's hope cracked down the middle like dry earth. Coalition. Not Earth. Not anyone he knew. Just some alien bureaucracy finally getting around to a beacon that had been screaming into the void since before some of its responders were probably born. Copy, he said anyway, because something was better than 11 years of nothing. Sending coordinates. The ship that descended through the toxic amber clouds 3 days later was small, too small, Darian thought, for a proper rescue vessel. It looked more like a shuttle. A scout craft. The kind of thing you'd send in to check if a place was worth dying for before you committed real resources. It landed badly. Not crash badly, just inexperienced badly, the kind of landing that scraped paint and rattled landing struts. Darian stood at the ridge above his shelter, rifle slung but not raised, and watched the hatch hiss open. What climbed out was not what he expected. They were small. Humanoid adjacent, with elongated limbs and skin the color of old bruises, mottled violet gray. Big eyes, oversized for their narrow faces, the kind of eyes built for low light. And they were young. Even with no frame of reference for alien aging, Darian's gut told him immediately, these were children. 3 of them, scrambling out of a shuttle meant for combat reconnaissance, wearing gear 2 sizes too large, weapons slung with the careless confidence of kids who'd been trained but never truly tested. The tallest one, couldn't have been more than the equivalent of 14, 15, stepped forward and raised a hand in a gesture that looked almost, but not quite, like a human wave. You are Darian Voss, the child said. Not a question. Registry pattern confirmed. We are the response team. Your children, Darian said, before he could stop himself. The kid's chin lifted, defensive. I am Kaylee's. I am rated for combat deployment. We all are. Darian looked past him at the other 2, one fiddling nervously with a sidearm holster, the other staring up at the toxic sky with naked, undisguised terror. This is a death world, Darian said slowly. This planet has killed 11 adult, trained, equipped soldiers in the time I've been here. Where is your support ship? Your adult command crew? Kaylee's composure flickered, just slightly. There was no other ship close enough. The beacon registry flagged this signal as critical priority 11 years running. Command protocol states any crewed vessel in range must respond, regardless of crew designation. So they sent the only ship in range, Darian said. And that ship was a children's training vessel. We volunteered, said the smallest one, couldn't have been more than 10, with a fierceness that didn't match her size at all. Darian closed his eyes for a long moment. 11 years of silence, and the universe's answer was 3 terrified children stepping out onto a planet that ate things bigger and meaner than them for breakfast. Get back in your ship, he said. We are not leaving without, Kaylee started. I'm not telling you to abandon the mission, Darian snapped. I'm telling you that if you stand out here in the open for one more minute, the local wildlife is going to introduce itself, and that introduction will end with someone's organs on the outside of their body. Move. That, apparently, was a register of authority they understood. All 3 scrambled back toward the shuttle's hatch. Inside the shuttle, cramped, smelling of ozone and unfamiliar metals, Darian got the full picture, and it was worse than he'd assumed. The coalition's outer rim worlds were stretched thin. Decades of conflict with something the children only referred to as the harrowers had bled the adult military dry. What remained were training fleets, cadet crews, children raised from birth to fight a war their parents' generation had started and couldn't finish. Kaylee's and his two crewmates, Sarah and Tommy's, were what passed for an emergency response unit these days, kids who'd logged simulator hours but never real combat, sent because the alternative was sending no one at all. "How long have you been doing this?" Darian asked, watching Sarah methodically check and recheck a medkit like it was a nervous tick. "Since I was 8, Kaylee said. Most of us start training that young." Darian thought of his own childhood, soccer practice, scraped knees from bicycles, nothing more dangerous than a bee sting. He thought about what it meant for a species to be so exhausted by war that it had nothing left to send except its own children into the dark. Something in his chest, long calloused over by 11 years of survival, cracked open. "Okay," he said. "New plan. You're not rescuing me. I'm getting you 3 off this rock alive, and then we're going to talk about getting actual help out here. Deal?" Kaylee's blinked, uncertain. "You're injured. Resource depleted. We were sent to extract you. I've survived 11 years on a planet specifically designed by evolution to kill anything that breathes," Darian said. "I think I can manage a few more hours keeping 3 kids from getting eaten." It wasn't graceful. Darian Voss was no soldier, he'd been a terraforming engineer before the crash, more comfortable with soil composition charts than firefights, but 11 years on a death world had taught him things no simulator could replicate. He knew the sound a predator made before it lunged. He knew which plants oozed poison on contact and which ones, properly prepared, could neutralize that poison. He knew how to read a landscape that wanted him dead and find the half-second windows where it didn't. When the pack of horned things, 6-legged, fast, hungry, caught their scent on the trek back to a safer extraction point, it was Darian who herded the children into a defensible position behind a rock formation, who threw the chemical flares that the thing's sensory organs couldn't tolerate, who stood at the front with a spear he'd carved himself while 3 alien children with military-grade weapons froze, because no simulation had prepared them for the specific, animal terror of something that actually wanted to kill them. "Position discipline," Darian barked, the way he imagined a drill sergeant might, though he was inventing the authority as he went. Kaylee's, left flank. Sarah, status on Tommy's. Now. And they listened. Because in that moment, against every protocol and registry designation, he wasn't the rescue target. He was the only adult on the field. The predators broke off eventually, deciding the flares and noise weren't worth the meal. The 4 of them sat in the sudden quiet, breathing hard. "You're not what the registry said," Kaylee's finally managed. "Survivor profile listed you as civilian, non-combat specialization." "I am a civilian," Darian said, sliding down against the rock, adrenaline draining out of him in a slow tide. "Civilians on death worlds just don't get the luxury of staying that way for long." Sarah, still pale, looked at him with something between awe and confusion. "Your species lets civilians become like this?" Darian thought about that. About humanity's long, ugly, beautiful history of refusing to die quietly, of turning farmers into fighters and engineers into survivors whenever the universe demanded it. "My species," he said, "doesn't really know how to do anything but this." He looked at the 3 of them, exhausted, frightened, entirely too young for any of it, and felt that old protective instinct, dormant for over a decade, roar back to life. "Come on," he said, pushing himself upright. "Let's get you home. And then we're having a very long conversation with whoever's left in charge about why they're sending children to do an adult's job." Kaylee's managed something that was almost a smile. "You sound like command staff." "God help your entire civilization if I am," Darian muttered, and led them back through the dying light toward the shuttle dot.